Welcome, my singing friends. It's great to see you back here at the channel. I'm really excited to do another one of our vocal journey interviews tonight with a great friend of mine, so stay tuned. It's been a lot of fun doing these interviews with some great friends of mine who are very talented. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you, part of our YouTube audience, to be able to hear the experiences that some of these great vocalists have had and the journey that they've taken, sometimes some of the challenges they've had to overcome, as well as the great successes that they've been able to experience. And so tonight, I am excited to be able to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Alex Fuhriman, and he's a great vocalist, has a beautiful voice.
And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars.
Welcome, Alex. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It is really good to be here.
So we're just going to kind of have a conversation together and talk a little bit about singing and performing and some of the experiences you've had. We just want to learn from you. So I'm just going to ask a few questions, maybe to warm us up here. Why don't you first to introduce yourself to our YouTube audience here, tell us a little bit about your vocal training and maybe just kind of a thumbnail sketch of some of your vocal performance experience.
Absolutely. I was a full ride undergraduate student at Boise State University in music performance and education. It was really fun when I was offered that scholarship at Boise State. They really approached me with the invitation that they wanted to start moving away from strictly more of an opera training to a musical theater, and they had kind of put a pin in my name saying, we want you to be the face of this new program. And so I almost feel bad admitting it, but I've only ever auditioned once for a role. From that point on, it was always people coming to me asking if I would be in their show, if I would take a position. And that was even for me at college. They intentionally picked shows all 4 years, knowing I would be the lead. And so that was really a lot of fun to have a program almost tailored to me for those 4 years as they transitioned to building a music theater program. Really, really enjoyable. And so during that time, not only heavily involved in the collegiate performance scene, but then all the local theaters, just being there, came asking if I was willing to perform. And so in the course of my 4 years of undergraduate studies, I'd have to go back and look again to get a firm number, but I believe the numbers, it's in the upper 30s of how many different shows I was in those 4 years. It's just a phenomenal, busy, but incredible experience of my life to be so heavily invested in performance and musical theater during that time. So that was the bulk of my performance is that 4-year period.
Awesome, fantastic. So obviously to be accepted into that program on a full ride scholarship, I would have to assume that you had some kind of vocal experience even before college then. Did you sing when you were in high school? Did you take vocal instruction then? Were you just a natural? How did that all happen?
You know, it's really interesting. I was a sport nut. I played a lot of sports, and my junior year, I broke my ankle in basketball. And of course, coaches and teammates all said, hey, not a big deal, get better. But an interesting thing, as I went through the recovery process and had to take a step back from that world, I actually looked at it and I was like, I wasn't really having fun. I didn't I didn't particularly enjoy what I was doing. It's just what I did.
Right.
And at that same point, that junior year, the choir teacher of the school was really looking for people who wanted, she just needed people. And so I had gone and was in their basic choir, you know, nothing big, nothing fancy. But as I broke my ankle and was looking at other things, I realized I really like doing this. This is fun. And I had certainly done a little bit of music before, here or there in church, you know, in middle school choir and things like that. But it was that junior there that I really realized this is fun. And it must have been senior year then. So my senior year, I decided I wasn't going to do any sports because I was enjoying the music so much. And that senior year did all the different choirs that were offered. And same thing happened. They did a school musical and they did it with me in mind, thinking, you're going to do this show, right? And so it was so much fun. And that's really where the bug bit me then, is that senior year. And that was really the only experience I'd had. But I loved it. They did Little Shop of Horrors, and just had a phenomenal experience. And it was so fun. And the two professors that Boise State had hired and brought in that year to start this transformation were going around the valley looking at singers. And so they happened to see that show and approached me saying, we would really be interested in you joining us at Boise State. And so that's really was the catalyst, is the broken ankle that led me to looking elsewhere.
That's a great story. I think we should take that story, package it, and pitch it to Disney for a musical. We could call it High School Oh, wait a second. They've already done it, haven't they?
It was for real though.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. You know, I really, of course, I enjoy everyone that I'm interviewing, both male and female. But it really intrigues me, some of the stories that I hear of male vocalists, because, you know, we are oftentimes kind of, you know, we focus on sports. We enjoy sports. You know, you're put in little league or, you know, football or whatever else it is. When you're a little kid, that's kind of what you do. It's what you grow up doing. And oftentimes we don't consider the arts as much as male. And I even remember in high school thinking I played the piano, but I didn't announce it to my friends that I did. And I sang in like church choirs, but I didn't tell anyone about that either. And I really wanted to pursue some vocal music, but I just didn't. In my era, it wasn't the thing to do for a guy, you know, to go into the school choir kind of thing. And so I'm always intrigued to hear the story of the male vocalists and how they bridge that and discover that it's a love of theirs, and can really, you know, just kind of embrace it. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. You know, to your point, my sophomore year, my dad was in a community production of Pirates of Penzance. Yeah. And they needed a lead. And my dad said, my son is a really good singer. He doesn't sing anywhere, but I hear him. He's a really good singer. You should bring him in. And so the director asked me to come in, and I sang for them, and they offered me that lead role. And I literally told them, my social life struggles enough already without adding this to my resume. No, thank you. And I turned it down.
Oh, that's great. Oh, too funny. Of the roles you've had a chance to play, the shows you performed in, is there one or two that just really stands out as boy, just a favorite, a highlight?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So playing Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls was a fun role. Michael McLean wrote a very unknown musical that just never got off the ground. But when he wrote it, a director there in the Boise area knew him and got a box with kind of the pre-packaged bones of this play, and we sort of put it together and performed it, and it was called The Ark.
Yeah, I
And,
performed in the Ark.
oh, have you really?
Yeah, I did.
So I'll bet what you performed in was very different what we performed in, because it was before he had finished it.
Yeah.
And so it was but playing Ham in that musical was so fun. I really, really enjoyed that performance. I'll tell you the one that I would do if it was ever performed. Man of La Mancha has always been dear to my heart, and I'd never had the opportunity to be in that one. So that's the one I'd really like to be in and haven't.
I think all of us find, as we perform, we love each of the characters, each of the shows for their own uniqueness. But there are just a few roles, I think, that each of us just kind of, for whatever reason, you connect with. It's just so much fun, so enjoyable, and that's great. That's awesome. When you were in college then studying, that's really interesting that they kind of tailored the whole program, with you as you were going through as kind of their test run through it. How many vocal coaches, instructors did you have during those 4 years?
So the two professors, it was a husband and wife who had come in, and he grabbed me and scooped me up and kind of took me under his wing, and it was him.
Yeah. Have you had any vocal instructors since then?
No, I really, yeah.
4 years of him.
4 years of him. And partly because everyone else in the program's background was opera. That was what their music program was to that point. And he almost wanted to shield me from their methodology. And so it was 4 years with him. And when I finished my undergraduate degree and continued my master's and doctoral program, I pursued education, instruction rather than music. And so there hasn't been that opportunity, or at least I should say I haven't pursued that opportunity to find a different coach.
Yeah. As you were studying voice there, obviously it sounds like you already had a natural gift and talent that took you there. What were some of the, it's interesting for those who have kind of that natural gift of music, naturally beautiful tonal qualities, the voice just comes natural to them. Sometimes their learning journey as they get instruction is a little different than those who really are starting from ground zero and have to start build it, right? So what did you find as you started studying voice? Were there certain things you really had to work on, that you had to focus on changing or adapting, that were a struggle, things that came easy to you?
The struggle was technique. I would naturally do things well, and a couple of things that just came were volume, presence, tonality. It just, for lack of a better term, at the risk of sounding conceited, it just sounded good naturally. But what wasn't there is any understanding of why it sounded good. And what I was doing naturally. And so to take that and break it down into what are you doing and why is it working, and being conscious of what I was doing so that I could do it intentionally and tighten it, and consider, okay, in this phrase, in this passage, in this song, is that what I want to do, what I would normally just naturally do? Or do I want to intentionally do some different things to create a different sound, to create a different mood, to create a different feel? And so even from shape of the lips, to stop and think, what are my lips doing? That was so awkward for me. Where's my tongue? And why is my tongue there? And if I shift it even a little bit, what difference is that going to make, and why? How is my throat? And especially paying attention to, what are my shoulders doing? What's my chest doing? Am I tight? Am I squeezing? What are my legs doing? And how is the tightening of my legs affecting the full body flow? All those things were so unnatural for me. And that was probably the hardest part, is to stop and cognitively be aware of what was going on, so that I could be choosing how to perform and being in charge of it, rather than just letting the flow happen. And there was great, it's almost a silly word to use, but there was a lot of power in that process, and being aware of what I was doing. And suddenly, I remember a couple of times when it was working, and I was starting to figure out, and it clicked, and the body was in the right flow and in the right position, and suddenly the sound that came out, and you could just hear it, but more than that, you could feel the resonance. And it was awe, in the word of, that AWE, awe. It was awesome. It was emotional, even a few times on my own, to sing and just feel this connection of almost body and soul coming together to create. Oh yeah, just astounding.
I love that, because, I think as a vocal instructor, I work with students of varying abilities, everything from beginners who are just learning the fundamentals, to those who are very gifted naturally, or have had a lot of previous vocal training. They're already well along the way. They're already performing professionally, right? And sometimes working with those who are already well down the path of the vocal journey, they struggle with vocal training, because there's a fear there sometimes of doing something different. Because I know, just like you said, I know I sound good right now. So if I do something different, do I lose that? Right. And so I love what you said, because in that, it's not that you lose anything that's good. We want to keep all the good vocal stuff going on there. But one, what you said that I found really significant is you learn what you're doing that makes it sound good, so that you can consciously, I liked what you said, with intent, utilize those techniques more effectively. So you can make choices, vocal choices, right? And third, there's an enhancement. You mentioned there were times when, boy, it just unlocked something that you hadn't had previously in the voice. So awesome. I love that. Perfect. I think one of the beautiful things about music is that you really can enjoy producing music. When I say producing, singing, sharing music in every stage of your life. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of it. So, well, thank you, Alex, for joining us. I really appreciate this time. It's been fun chatting with you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.